Hey there! It's been a little while since I got on the YouTubes. So, the reason I haven't been on the YouTubes is because, well, I tell myself I don't have enough time to make a good video. And that is true. That is true. I don't have enough time to make a good video. But I do have enough time to make a bad video. So, I'm going to just make bad videos. And I think if I can share some good things with you in a bad video, I hope the content will. I hope the content will transcend the quality. So it's a snowy day. I wanted you to see the snow outside today, here in near the Boston area. I like snow. Melissa doesn't like snow, but she calls me her Nordic mouse, so I don't mind cold weather. Although my hands getting a little busted because of moisturization failure, but I wanted to I wanted to come on here. You notice how people say that? They're like, I wanted to come on here. I don't know, it just cracks me up every time I hear it. Anyway, I wanted to come on here. But the theme of today's story, I will entitle Head Bruise. Head Bruise. And this is why. So last weekend, we went to Albany to visit my brother-in-law, Rob. He lives in Albany. And Uncle Rob has an amazing large backyard, and his yard is full of, well, in the summertime it's alive with flowers, and he has an amazing solar light collection, so that when you look out at nighttime around the fire pit and everything, it's like summertime fairyland. So we're in Uncle Rob's winter yard, and I that is the one aspect of our house that I wish that we had. I wish we had an enclosed backyard. We do have space, and we have a really nice playground nearby, but there's no place that we can say run out and play. And that would come in handy, when the boys are fighting over the one Darth Vader or Bluey figure that they decide is the only toy that can be played with at that moment. There's another video about simplicity coming on that, I think. So, but we're at Uncle Rob's house, and he has this great backyard. So we go out to play. So Noah and Jude and we go out to play. He has a couple of little deflated footballs we're going to throw around, American footballs. And I had to explain to Jude the other night, we were reading a book that was published in the UK, and it said football and had a picture of, what we call a soccer ball. And he said, "That's a soccer ball." I said, "Well, only in this country. Every other person in the world calls that a football." So, but we went outside and we had our footballs, and the boys were excited to play. And there were many different ideas about how three people could play football. And so I just suggested that maybe we stand in a triangle and throw the ball. And that was not met with a lot of enthusiasm. So finally, I just said, let's just run around and play a little bit. And so I'm standing at one side of the yard, and I look close to the house. There are two 4x4s in the ground near the terrace or the patio, and that's where a hammock can hang in the warmer months. So I look, and I see our 4-year-old Jude running very fast in the direction of this 4x4, and he's looking down, running with the football, and he goes right into the 4x4 right there on his head. And it is so hard that it spins him around, and he lands right at his bottom in the frozen flower bed. So immediate, abject wailing and pain. He's got this pink mark going right down his forehead, and this literally a hematoma. It looked like a joke that it looked like the eye of Sauron growing on his head. So he is inconsolable, screaming, crying. I take him inside. I have to tell Melissa and Uncle, there is a mark on his head. Prepare your faces. Prepare yourself. Don't don't recoil in horror when you see this child's face. He's going to be okay. But just to get a little washcloth on his head was it was a big task. So Mommy, to the rescue. She coaxed him with gentleness and an episode of Bluey, and finally got something cold on his head. So 3 minutes. That was 3 minutes outside. Parenthood can feel overwhelming. And so anyway, Nugget number one, Noah and I, we go back outside and we start to throw the football. So, I'm trying to overcome my own little league football trauma and teach him how to have a good time throwing a football. So I'm teaching him, how to hold the ball, how to let go, because he's wanting to let go right here, and that's going into the ground, and or some sidearm action was happening. So I'm passing it to him underhand and teaching him how to throw the ball, and he's doing really well. He's picking up the instructions really clearly, and I'm really proud of him. He's doing a great job. And so then he wants me to change my grip. He wanted me to throw it, overhand, because I was giving it to him underhand so he could catch. So I changed my grip. The ball is like 75% inflated. It's a deflated ball. So not NFL regulation. They'd get in trouble for that. But the the corner of the ball just goes boom, right on Noah's forehead. So something about foreheads that day. It looked like it was just, a hit. He was gonna move on. So I was like, all right, buddy, pick up the ball. Let's try again. And then 3, 2, 1. I mean, just, not just physical hurt, but there was just a little bit of betrayal. Like Daddy had thrown the ball and hit him in the forehead. So I remembered a thing that I learned from Eli Harwood on Instagram. She's the attachment nerd on Instagram. I really love her work, but I'm pretty sure it was her. But she talked about how trauma that we carry in our bodies, it's not the product necessarily of experiencing an adverse event. You can experience an adverse event and not carry cellular memory trauma in your body. And the key to that is to have a safe person that you can process the event with. It's when we experience an adverse event and we have to basically process it alone. That's when the body does its thing to have to store things or to manage. So it's having to cope with or process things in isolation that really can lead to later effects of what trauma can do to us. A lot of times, if trauma happens as a child and something you've had to keep secret or you feel like you had to bear on your own, that will often show up later in life. So I was thinking about that. That came to mind as Noah was crying. And I also remembered as a little boy, I heard lots of adult male voices throughout the 1980s in my head of things like, come on, you ain't got time to hurt. Or let's see, oh, that wasn't that bad. Or come on, just rub some dirt on it. Let's go. So anyway, those were the milder versions of Don't Cry. Got some many versions of Don't Cry. I got the message a lot. And that was tough because I cried a lot as a little boy. So I was remembering those things, and even remembering it now, I can really feel that right in my tummy. Just the how I had to learn to stuff things down. So Noah's crying, and so I thought, I'm just gonna go be with him. So I just walked over to him and I put my hand on his shoulder, and I didn't say anything. I just stood next to him and let him cry, and he cried for about probably 30 seconds. And then he was done crying. And so after wipe the nose, wipe the eyes, I said, let's try it again. And I threw it back to him underhand, and he threw it very hard at me. And, I think I made some comment about that being like a bullet, and he loved that. And so finally we got back into our groove, and I started throwing it overhand again, and he was able to catch it. And it was great. And he started to get frustrated that he was dropping the ball, and I was dropping the ball too. It was cold outside, and so it was good to reiterate just trying something new and getting better at it. And we had a great time. And then we ended up playing tag, and I learned all the different forms of tag currently being played on the Warren Elementary School playground here in Ashland, Massachusetts. So I didn't want to do zombie tag. That required many, many tags to become or be freed from zombiehood. So I don't know. I just never have been into zombies in general. So sorry, Walking Dead fans. I can't do zombies. But Um, but what I thought about too with Noah crying and Jude crying, and when we experience an event that is an event that does injure us, when we experience that, we need time to process through that pain and to heal. And they say there's the song "Time Heals Everything." Time heals all wounds, and time is a necessary element. We do live in time. And it's not just time that we need, though. We need time, and we need loving witness. We need loving witness. So that's why it makes such a huge difference. If you have a caretaker who loves you and who is safe and who you can share your pain with, that will help you process the experience through your body. And that way it won't attach to you in a way that impedes you in your adult life with brilliant coping mechanisms that emerged when you were 8 years old. Loving witness. And I realize a lot of times we experience pain and we're alone. And I wanted to share with you that one of the most valuable things that I've learned in this process of being hurt and being healed is that the witness that I am to myself is crucial. And so if I'm alone and a pain or a hurt comes up to be healed, the way that I witness myself is crucial in that experience. So I think I am a prayer. I'm a faithy man, and I would often, in moments of pain, I would cry out and ask God to help me or bring me comfort. And for much of my life, when I would talk to God, in my imagination, God's expression would be like, you can do better. You can do better. Or there was something I needed to do to kind of earn my way in. That was the story I told myself for a long time. And it wasn't until lots of years of pain and pulverization, needing lots of forgiveness myself from other people, where I was able to receive mercy and forgiveness, that I softened it up enough. And also becoming a parent, I softened up enough to imagine that the face of my Creator was a face of compassion, love, and delight. That when God looks at me with the eyes of love. And so that helps me to also regard myself with love and compassion when I'm going through something that's difficult. So that looks like letting myself cry until I'm done. And often for me, when I'm alone, my coping mechanisms are so strong and my dissociation is so highly skilled that often when I'm alone, I can't really cry. I actually usually have to have the presence of a loving witness with me. So that's why I say, if you can phone a friend, if you can reach out to somebody, please, please do. And if you can't at that moment, what can you do to witness yourself in a loving way? I think that involves breathing. So even as I'm talking about this, I can feel my breath kind of catching and getting a little held, because breathing requires letting something go and letting something in. And so when we're in an adrenalized, protected state, it's very hard to let that happen. Also, when we're performing, our mind can often perceive that as a time of panic or of perceived attack or potential attack. So we can freeze up. So if I remind myself to let the air out first, let the air come back in, and just watch my breath for a little while, that's very helpful. And then maybe doing something kind for yourself. It might be a walk in nature. It might be listening to an audiobook of really quality fiction. I've been listening to Charles Dickens lately and Victor Hugo lately. The the way the classics really endure and explore the human soul. It's very healing. Maybe you need to take a bath or a shower and just let all of that, or not all of it, but the heavier thoughts, let them go down the drain. Yeah. So water is actually very helpful. It's a good resetter. So anything that you know brings you more comfort, more clarity, and a degree of peace, or just some space, do that for yourself. Breathe, do the spacious thing. And then it might be too soon in the moment, but maybe reflect on something that was very painful that you have been through, that you made it through. So remember, you're watching this video, so you have a 100% success rate of making it through shitty days. You made it, so you're here, and you are here to hear this. So you will be there to reflect back on whatever's happening now. So I think too, the painful things that we process and go through, they are a rich treasure of experience that lives in our heart, that lives in our experience. So when I go to sing a song and I open up the door to that reserve, I can say through my open heart that I know what this is like, and I have a feeling that you also know what this is like. So when I studied with Betty Buckley in New York, she would always do this exercise where she would say, I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know. And as I get older, I finally understand what that means, that I know what this experience has been for me, and I bet you also understand this experience. And that way we're connected, no matter how different we may be on this heart level and of experiencing pain and suffering and processing through that. We know what it is to experience this. And as a singer, you can open your heart, you can welcome people into that and invite them to share the experience with you. And there's healing for you, and there's healing for them in that. So I think as a singing storyteller, why am I going to do this if there isn't a modicum of healing available in this experience? So I want to invite you to open your heart and let that be present when you sing. And remember, when you're going through something painful, to notice how you're witnessing yourself. How are you talking to yourself? How are you speaking to yourself? It's really tough to speak to ourselves with compassion. We internalize and we learn ways of talking to ourselves that are really tough because we think that's the only way that we're going to get things done. And I'm remembering a music director that I worked with at the Muni, who was one of the first music directors I'd seen have so much joy and fun in the process. And he said, you can get there stressed out or you can get there joyful. Either way, you're going to get there. And it made a huge impression on me. And I want to remember that anything you're doing, take a moment to breathe and notice if you are having joy in that moment. So remember that. Remember that there is only one you. And folks need to hear the story that only you can sing. And I've got a couple of PSs on this one, so I'll put these down in the description. I've really been positively affected by the work of Dr. Rangan Chatterjee lately, so I'm going to put a couple of links to a couple of videos that have been great of his lately. One about journaling and a really effective method of journaling that's brought a lot of clarity for me, and another about just some tips about resetting for 2024. And I found that really helpful. And what else? There was one other thing. Oh, yeah. About letter writing. I'm going to give you some links about letter writing, and specifically letter writing during the First World War. This plethora of correspondence and communication that happened in the First World War, and especially how soldiers, I've been thinking a lot about how soldiers would write in the trenches and grab any stolen moment they could during battle or during downtime to write home, and the amount of mail that that crossed Europe and the English Channel at that time. It's crazy. So there are a few links that I'm going to put in the description that are just fascinating. And when I am writing, when I feel resistance to writing, I have this image of a soldier in the trenches writing home. And I thought, well, if someone can write in a trench, I can write at my desk. So, all right. Well, I'm just sending you lots of love and great wishes for whatever your journey is right now, artistically or life wise. And I encourage you to sing something today. And I'm gonna be sending you a lot more of these low quality videos with lots of ums and hums in them. And but it's more important to share. And I'm just gonna hit record and put it on the YouTubes, and I hope it finds the right people. And I'm really glad that we got to share this time together today. Have a great one.